He is the most skilled plastic surgeon in all of South Korea. Anyone transformed by his hands doesn't necessarily become a top-tier celebrity overnight, but their confidence improves by several levels. His exquisite craftsmanship attracts countless beauty seekers to book appointments, and logically, he should be making a fortune. However, Young-woo and his colleagues follow an unspoken rule. One day, a father brought his daughter in for a consultation, claiming she had been scalded by hot water while bathing. Although the girl's face showed extensive scarring, her hands were completely uninjured, which immediately raised suspicion. Young-woo could tell the father was lying, but instead of confronting him directly, he declined the case, citing the clinic's policy against performing reconstructive procedures. Enraged by the rejection, the father stormed to the front desk, accusing the doctor of looking down on the poor and threatening to damage the hospital. Thankfully, Dr. Woo Jin intervened just in time to prevent a bigger scene. Still dissatisfied, the father exposed the incident to the media, resulting in several days without a single patient at the hospital. 2 days later, a girl approached the front desk cautiously, urgently requesting a consultation. Curious about the urgency, Young-woo asked what kind of procedure she wanted. To his surprise, the girl said she wanted to change every part of her body. However, Young-woo noticed that her features were already near perfect. She had double eyelids and a well-balanced face. What caught his attention instead was the strange, unsettling expression on her face. He advised her to reconsider and return only when she truly felt the need to change her appearance. As the girl left in the elevator, she felt a persistent sense of being watched. The feeling followed her all the way to the underground parking lot, where a man suddenly called out to her and then emerged, laughing wildly when he saw her. Shortly after, the hospital director informed Young-woo that a patient needed emergency surgery. The girl had returned with severe injuries. Initially, Young-woo refused, as reconstructive trauma surgeries like this are typically handled by general surgeons in South Korea. But faced with the director's urgent plea and the girl's serious condition, he finally agreed. Before operating, Young-woo carefully reconstructed the sequence of the injuries, concluding that the fractures occurred after the initial attack and were followed by a second blow that forced a bone fragment into her eye socket. The surgery would first require removing the lodged object and then piecing together the shattered bones. Meanwhile, police arrived at the crime scene. Aside from broken glass scattered across the ground, no useful clues were found. All the surveillance cameras in the parking lot had been blocked by cars at the time of the incident, leaving the case shrouded in mystery. There was no footage capturing the girl being assaulted, while the man submitted a medical report claiming that she had attacked him. With no concrete evidence, the police had no choice but to rule it as mutual violence. Wanting to bring the perpetrator to justice, a female officer took the initiative to visit Young-woo's office, hoping he could provide a professional opinion on the injuries. In short, she wanted him to confirm that the girl's wounds were the result of a secondary attack, which would prove the man acted with malicious intent. Unexpectedly, Young-woo immediately declined, explaining that he couldn't disclose any patient information. At that moment, the father who had previously caused a scene burst into the office, accusing Young-woo of being unfit to be a doctor. He claimed that his daughter had run away from home due to being looked down upon for their financial situation. Before he could continue, he was dragged out by Dr. Woo Jin and security. This incident caused the female officer to view Young-woo in a new light. Later that afternoon, the man was released without charge due to lack of evidence. Angry, he grabbed his lawyer by the face, blaming him for making him stay locked up so long. Just as he raised his hand to hit him, the female officer grabbed him by the wrist and found a tracking system on his phone. 3 days later, the girl was discharged from the hospital. The moment she opened her car door, the man shoved her inside and drove off to a basement, unaware that the female officer had witnessed the abduction. She tried to follow, but her car was blocked at the intersection. Fortunately, Young-woo happened to be driving home at the time. After hearing what happened, he joined the officer in pursuit. Meanwhile, inside the car, the girl deliberately provoked the man. What he didn't know was that everything he said was being recorded. Eventually, Young-woo cut off the man's car, and the officer smashed a window to intervene. The man was arrested on charges of kidnapping, unlawful confinement, and assault. A tracking device was also found in the rear of his vehicle. With that, the case of stalking and assault was finally closed. However, not long after, late one night, a man fell to his death from a residential building. It was the same father who had previously caused trouble at the hospital. In his pocket, the female officer discovered a note filled with insults directed at Youngwoo. Strangely, the daughter appeared completely indifferent to her father's death and even requested that the police not pursue an investigation, suggesting it would be best to close the case as a suicide. But during their follow-up, the police noticed several oddities. There were no external fingerprints on the balcony railing or windows, no signs of struggle inside the apartment, and not even any trace blood reactions. The officer's sharp eye caught something strange, a calendar marked with place names every few days. Upon searching those names, they all turned out to be locations of well-known plastic surgery clinics. In addition, the father's shoes were polished and shiny, and the suit hanging on the wall had been freshly dry cleaned, an odd detail that raised questions. Based on the current clues, it appeared the father had been searching around for renowned plastic surgery clinics to help his daughter hide her facial scars. He had clearly done his research and sought out several hospitals, so why would he suddenly take his own life? Soon, the news reported on the fall and publicly released the contents of his suicide note, in which all the blame was directed at Youngwoo. Misled by the media, many patients began canceling their appointments. Meanwhile, the deceased's daughter completed her statement at the police station. The autopsy report confirmed that the cause of death was multiple open fractures leading to major organ damage. Additionally, it was discovered the father had lung cancer. The police captain speculated that the father, perhaps feeling deep guilt for not being able to get surgery for his daughter before his death, had committed suicide. He advised his team not to investigate further and to close the case as a suicide. However, the female officer caught up with the daughter to ask some follow-up questions. To her surprise, the girl revealed that her facial injuries were her father's doing. When her mother had left the family, her father, while she was only 9, had made a terrible mistake that ruined her life. She said she didn't see the point of his guilt-driven suicide and, since her privacy had now been exposed by the media, she didn't want the incident to ruin her future. She begged the officer not to pursue the case further. Elsewhere, Youngwoo was approached by a lawyer friend who called him into his car. The friend felt that although Youngwoo wouldn't be held legally responsible for the incident, public pressure and media scrutiny could still take a heavy toll on him. He offered legal help if needed. Back at the hospital, the director held a press conference to mitigate the public backlash. He announced, as an act of humanitarian goodwill, that the hospital would provide the girl with free reconstructive surgery. Furthermore, Youngwoo would personally perform 3 major reconstruction surgeries as part of a public welfare initiative. That afternoon, the police received a report of a molestation case at an internet cafe. A woman had been assaulted in the restroom, but the perpetrator's face had been slashed with a 12-centimeter gash from a knife. The female officer immediately rushed to the scene, where the victim and her boyfriend were still in the restroom stall. According to the boyfriend, they had been playing games when he noticed a suspicious man repeatedly staring at his girlfriend while pretending to clean. At first, they ignored him, but when the girlfriend went to the restroom and the man followed, she sensed danger and took a defensive stance, clutching a knife. The officer noted the suspect's injury and said he needed to be taken to the hospital for further evidence collection. The suspect was brought to Youngwoo's hospital. He acted oddly, obsessing over whether the scar would be visible and fidgeting with his buttons during treatment, which raised Youngwoo's suspicion. Meanwhile, the officer had just finished collecting evidence from the girlfriend when the boyfriend came over, expressing concern. But she noticed bloodstains on his shoes and decided to preserve them as physical evidence. Shortly after, the officer arrived at the hospital only to be informed by Youngwoo that the suspect required immediate surgery. The diagnosis revealed that the person was biologically female and had undergone breast implant surgery 3 weeks earlier, which had become severely infected. The implants needed to be removed immediately to prevent a life-threatening situation, meaning the couple had lied. Yet, details of the incident had already been leaked online. Netizens wrongly accused the internet cafe worker of being a predator. Under the mounting pressure of public outrage, the police captain felt the urgency to wrap the case up quickly. The officer ordered Gang Ho to escort the suspect back to the station, but just as they were about to leave the hospital, Youngwoo stopped them. Based on his medical expertise, He explained that the wound's depth increased from top to bottom, meaning the attacker had to be taller than the internet cafe worker. If the attacker had been shorter, the wound would have deepened from bottom to top. Meanwhile, the boyfriend had already been taken to the station, where the officer analyzed the bloodstains on his shoes. He discovered oval-shaped blood spatters, known as passive cast-off stains, blood that had been flung from a moving object onto a stationary surface, in this case, from a weapon to the shoes. This strongly indicated that the boyfriend was the attacker. It turned out that earlier, while playing games, the boyfriend had accidentally spilled alcohol. When the cafe worker came over to clean, his game character died, which angered him. A verbal argument broke out, and at the same time, his girlfriend went to the restroom. The cafe worker, being biologically female, didn't want others to know and waited outside. The boyfriend, still angry, forcefully shoved her into the restroom and deliberately injured her. Then, the couple concocted a fake molestation story in front of the victim to cover up the attack. In the end, the officer arrested both of them for intentional assault and false accusation. That night, a breakthrough came in the fall case. The deceased man's niece provided a crucial lead. On the night of the incident, she saw a suspicious man nearby. It was too dark to see his face clearly, but she remembered something odd stuck to the soles of his shoes. The officer immediately realized this could explain the absence of any footprints or physical traces, raising suspicion that the man's death was not a suicide. But one thing still puzzled her. If it wasn't suicide, why would the killer deliberately drag Youngwoo's name into it? At that very moment, Youngwoo was arriving home when a black car suddenly sped toward him. Just before it could hit him, the officer drove her white car between them, forcing the attacker to swerve and retreat. This quick thinking likely saved Youngwoo's life. Rewind an hour earlier, the officer had noticed the same black car tailing Youngwoo. The masked driver and his behavior matched the mysterious figure seen near the fall scene. Without alarming anyone, she discreetly followed and had her colleagues run a check on the car's license plate. They quickly reported it was a stolen vehicle, recently linked to a prior case. Before she could react, the black car accelerated toward Youngwoo, but her swift action prevented tragedy. Later that day, the annual televised model competition kicked off. 8 contestants had successfully advanced to the final round, giving it their all to win the title. On the day of the final recording of the model competition, 2 contestants moved unusually smoothly during their performance, causing dissatisfaction among the other participants. Many had heard rumors that Chai Jae-young had been dropped by her agency due to questionable private behavior and speculated she had gotten close to the director to gain favor. That afternoon, just as filming wrapped up, a woman suddenly approached Chai Jae-young and splashed hydrochloric acid on her face. Chai Jae-young collapsed in pain, and nearby pedestrians quickly subdued the assailant. However, the attacker remained indifferent during police questioning. She claimed she had been fired by her employer that morning and had gone for a walk in the park because of the good weather, insisting she didn't know Chai Jae-young and even asked the officers who the woman in red was. Meanwhile, forensic experts couldn't conclusively determine whether the car thief seen in surveillance footage was the same mysterious figure involved in the fall case. At the same time, Youngwoo received a call from Dr. Park's mother, who expressed confusion over why the hospital director had assigned Youngwoo to perform the reconstructive surgeries. In truth, the director was trying to mitigate public backlash, especially since the man who died by falling had recently been released from prison and only wanted to help his burn-scarred daughter receive surgery. Upon hearing this, Dr. Park's mother was shocked. She knew the deceased man personally. Later that day, Chai Jae-young's emergency treatment was completed. She had second-degree burns on the left side of her face, compounded by previous facial bone fillers, prompting doctors to recommend surgery at a plastic hospital. Chai Jae-young felt deeply wronged, asking why a complete stranger would attack her so viciously. A trainee policewoman noticed Chai Jae-young had a habit of sharing her whereabouts publicly on social media. Chai Jae-young was soon admitted to the plastic surgery clinic, where Youngwoo recommended an early reconstructive procedure to reduce the risk of infection. Upon learning that the injury might leave a scar, Chai Jae-young became visibly agitated. After a full day of investigation and statements from the attacker's employer, the police concluded the acid attack wasn't targeted. However, the female officer remained skeptical, feeling that the suspect's account was unconvincing, especially given how public Chai Jiang's movements were, making her an easy target. That night, the attacker requested the police locate her husband. She revealed that her husband had once abandoned her for a woman in a bright red dress, which likely caused her to mistake Chai Jiang, who had worn red, for the mistress, and attack her out of misplaced rage. As the situation continued to escalate, some unethical bloggers distorted the incident into a salacious drama, framing it as a jealous wife attacking a mistress. The police soon contacted the acid attacker's husband. According to his account, the woman didn't know Chai Jiang at all. He also revealed that his wife had been secretly stalking Chai Jiang, likely due to mental health issues. However, the police couldn't find any official psychiatric records under her name. Unexpectedly, the husband confessed that his wife used a friend's identity to avoid creating a medical record that might harm her in a divorce. Shortly thereafter, investigators confirmed she suffered from depression, delusions, and borderline psychosis. As a first-time offender with mental illness, she would likely not be detained. Still, the female officer found the timing suspicious, how the suspect had spontaneously mentioned her husband and motive without being prompted. It felt as though an unseen force was subtly steering the case's direction. Determined to uncover the true motive behind the acid attack, the officer began investigating similar incidents in recent years. Later, the suspect was released due to insufficient grounds for detention. As she prepared to leave, the female officer intercepted her and showed her a photo of the previous acid attack victim. Just as the woman was walking away, the officer pretended to make a phone call, casually revealing that Chai Jiang was currently staying in Yongwoo's plastic surgery clinic. The trap worked. The woman dismissed her lawyer and secretly snuck into the hospital. Without hesitation, she slipped into Chai Jiang's hospital room and began furiously taking photos of her disfigured face. What she didn't know was that the entire act was being recorded by the officer. On her way out, the attacker repeatedly called another woman. Meanwhile, Chai Jiang, devastated by everything that had happened, stood at the edge of the hospital rooftop. In her mind, she replayed memories of herself during her modeling days, when she was beautiful and confident. She had once caught the attention of a powerful company chairman who used his position to coerce young models like her. Eventually, she gathered the courage to report him. But she hadn't expected the price of speaking out to be so devastating. At that moment, Yongwoo, driving home, began to recall how emotionally unstable Chai Jiang had been when she was first admitted, yet had seemed strangely composed while assisting police earlier. Sensing something was wrong, he quickly turned around and rushed back to the hospital. Just as Chai Jiang was about to jump, he arrived and pulled her back from the rooftop. Elsewhere, the female officer followed the acid attacker to a high-end apartment complex. She had purposefully shown the woman a photo of another victim from a previous, similar acid attack case, hoping it would provoke a response. This confirmed that Damme didn't actually know Chai Jiang and had to visit the hospital to verify whether the task was truly completed. She intended to use the photo as proof to claim her reward from the person who had orchestrated the attack, where the mastermind, Yoonha, the wife of an entertainment company's chairman, was waiting. Yoonha disdainfully told her to take the money and leave, but Damme became visibly upset. Calmly, she picked up a steaming cup of tea, threatening Yoonha with it. Yoonha, terrified, Dashin's implication was clear. If acid could ruin Chai Jiang's life, it could just as easily be used against Yoonha. Yoonha, no fool, immediately recognized the threat. Her arrogance shifted to nervous respect. Dashin was trying to use the moment to extort more money from her. Meanwhile, police had retrieved the dashcam footage from the taxi Dashin took that day. The video clearly showed her leaving the apartment with a large bag full of cash. While this hinted at a possible transaction between her and Yoonha, there wasn't yet enough evidence to make a direct legal connection. The investigators decided to monitor Dashin's financial transactions closely. The next afternoon, the case took another turn. The female officer intercepted a middle-aged man outside Chai Jiang's hospital room. According to him, Chai Jiang and his daughter had once been close friends. A year earlier, they were both signed to the same entertainment agency, whose chairman, Yoonha, was now serving time in prison. The man believed his daughter's death was connected to the same acid attack plot. The officer immediately informed Chai Jae-young and revealed that her friend had died by suicide the previous year, driven to it by Yoonha's abuses. Chai Jae-young was deeply shaken. After calming down, she finally opened up and told the full truth of what had happened. That very afternoon, officers officially arrested Dae-shin. Just as Yoonha was about to slip out the door, during interrogation, Dae-shin confessed everything. The mastermind behind the acid attack was none other than Yoonha, the disgraced former chairman currently in prison. Despite being incarcerated, he had found a way to pass messages to his wife, Yoonha, who then paid handsomely to have the attack carried out. Yoonha, however, showed no remorse. In her eyes, it was just a small mistake her husband made, just something men do. But the female officer was unimpressed. She firmly told Yoonha that those who commit crimes must be held accountable, no matter how powerful they are. And with that, the acid attack case was officially solved. Public opinion turned in favor of Chai Jae-young, finally giving her some justice. But her disfigured face couldn't be restored, and her deceased friend would never return. The pain remained. Her gaze slowly drifted to the scissors sticking out of a nurse's pocket. Rage boiled inside. She was ready to take justice into her own hands and kill the monstrous chairman herself. But just as she was about to act, Young-woo appeared. Calm but firm, he warned her. If you do this, you'll pay the price. And in the end, it won't change anything. He told her not to waste time on revenge, but to focus on rebuilding, literally and figuratively. He said, is refusing to let those who hurt you decide the rest of your life. The next day, Chai Jae-young agreed to undergo skin graft surgery under Young-woo's care. Not long after, she bravely participated in the modeling competition finals. She knew she would never look the same again, but giving up would mean surrendering to her abuser's narrative. Still, reality wasn't a fairy tale. In this beauty-obsessed world, Chai Jae-young didn't win any awards. That night, as Young-woo was heading home, he noticed someone suspicious staring at him through his car window. Without hesitation, he chased after the figure. At the same time, the female officer happened to pass by and instantly joined the pursuit. The mysterious person disappeared from Young-woo's view, but just then, something unexpected happened. The figure called out to the female officer by name, walked straight up to her, and calmly removed his mask. To her shock, she recognized him. So guys, this is the first part of series. Like and drop a heart for part 2. See you next time.